When I was a kid and my family got a computer for the first time, a friend of mine let me borrow Age of Empires. This was a real-time strategy computer game that allowed you to build a civilization from basically nothing and then use the power you gain to take over the rest of the map and win. I've spent hours playing Age of Empires and still revisit it to this day. It's one of my favorite computer games of all time. Now, I love the idea of a board game that allows you to have that same feeling, starting from nothing and then spending your time and resources at building a more and more powerful empire until you're able to take over territory. Knowing this and feeling huge amounts of nostalgia every time I see a huge map on a board, I knew I had to give Scythe a chance. And turns out it's one of my favorite tabletop experiences. Scythe is a 4X area control and engine building game designed by Jamie Stegmaier and published by Stonemaier Games. It is set in an alternate history 1920s Europe where war has raged and has been settled now that mankind has developed large mechs to aid in its efforts. Now that the dust has settled, however, the stage is set for someone to take control of Eastern Europe. They do so by building wealth as they develop the war-torn region. At first glance, Scythe looks like a typical war game with minis and a huge map, but there is quite a bit of character in it. Each player is going to take the role of a leader of a faction. Each faction is going to have its own special power, resources, and starting position. You begin Scythe in your own small corner of the world, and it's up to you to take it from there and harness the technology at your disposal and expand your reach. As the game starts, you begin to see the genius in Scythe's design. Your choices on your turn are numerous. There's a large tech tree that you can utilize. You choose an action slot, and then you can perform the top, and bottom, or neither of these actions. Now I know what you're thinking. A game with so many options sounds overwhelming. It doesn't really sound that fun. And you may be right, but as you play Scythe, you'll begin to see how quickly these turns actually go. Here's the tech tree again. You simply pay the cost if necessary. Over here you don't have to pay, you just choose the action and it happens. And you follow the tree down and then you get the rewards. The rules even state that if you're performing one of these bottom row actions, as you decide which one you want to do or what you want to do, you can pass the turn. That way play continues to move. Another thing that I love about Scythe is its emphasis on agriculture and development. You may see a game with detailed war machine miniatures and think that you'll be tearing into other players the entire game. That's not the case though. In fact, you can play a game of Scythe without ever entering combat. It's more unlikely as you add players to the player count, but it is possible. If you enter a space with another player's miniature or mechs, you have to enter combat. Once you do, you see another instance of Scythe's elegant and simple design. Players secretly bid power on these power dials that they have on their power track. You reveal the bid, adding any combat cards you want to spin, and the highest bid wins. Jamie Stegmaier, the game's designer, has said that the name of Scythe has a double meaning. A scythe is a farming tool that typically has one purpose, which is being used during harvest. When the time comes, however, and push comes to shove, it can be used in war. I think that sums up Scythe's combat perfectly. It's the threat of combat that will drive you, and not combat itself. The art and world building of the game is credited to Jacob Brzezalski. It has to be my favorite thing about Scythe. I remember seeing some of Jacob's work before ever hearing about the game. His involvement with Scythe only added to my excitement upon hearing about it. There's some absurdity in it. The power of industrialization and disarmament now thrust into the world of agriculture. It's a melancholy mix of desperation and terrifying power. It's arresting and emotive, and it's everywhere in Scythe's design. It's a joy to behold as you fight for the control of the map. The last thing I want to mention is how much I appreciate the subtle humor in this game. Now, upon first looking at Scythe, you probably wouldn't think of it as a game that works in jokes, but it actually does. And that's a common theme here in Scythe. There's a lot more than meets the eye. Here are the encounter cards. Encounters are triggered when your player miniature enters a space with these icons. Okay, here are a couple encounter cards from Scythe. You see a snowy hillside with some horses and warriors and a mech. Here are the options you can choose when you come across this encounter. You could humbly take orders from your superior officer. Okay, pretty safe. You could give the villager a ride home on your horse. That's nice. Or you could threaten to create an avalanche with your bazooka. I kind of want to do that one. Here's another. You've got a pasture with some cows and a mech. You could distract the rogue mech with your yodeling skills to save the cow. Seize control of the mech and scuttle into the forest. Or you could just steer the cow under the mech to see what happens. Next time I'm playing, I'm just doing nothing but encounters. Now, as you can imagine, I just really love this game. It's a game that I'm so proud to have on my shelf and have played a ton of times already, and I'm sure will continue to play. If it looks interesting to you, I hope you'll check out Scythe. It's just really a great all-in-one package. That's it for me today. See you next time.